Adana was the most beautiful girl in her West African village, with long braids adorned with cowrie shells that reached her waist. Her stepmother Yatund grew jealous watching the villagers praise Adana's beauty every day. One night, consumed by envy, Yatund crept into Adana's room with sharp shears. The small village of Karimu sat nestled between golden grasslands and tall baobab trees that had stood for hundreds of years. The air was warm and filled with the sounds of people going about their daily lives. Women carried water on their heads, children played with sticks and stones, and the men worked in the fields under the hot sun. It was a simple place, but it was home to many families who lived together in peace and harmony. In one of the largest compounds in the village lived a girl named Adana. She was 17 years old and had skin that shone like polished mahogany in the sunlight. But what made Adana truly special was her hair. Her hair was thick and long, reaching down to her waist. It was dark like the night sky and shiny like water after rain. Her mother, who had passed away many years ago, had taught her how to care for her hair with natural oils and prayers. Every morning, Adana would sit while someone braided her hair into beautiful patterns. Her braids were decorated with cowrie shells, golden threads, and small beads that made soft sounds when she walked. Every person in the village knew Adana. The young men would find reasons to walk past her father's compound just to catch a glimpse of her. The older women would compliment her beauty and smile warmly when they saw her. Even the children would follow her around, wanting to be near her. The village elders would say that Adana had a special gift, a beauty that came not just from her appearance, but from the kindness in her heart and the light that seemed to shine from her eyes. Adana's father was a successful trader who traveled to distant lands to buy and sell goods. He was respected and honored in the village. But when Adana was very young, her father married again. He married a woman named Yatund who came from a neighboring village. With Yatund came her own daughter, Chioma, who was a few years older than Adana. Yatund seemed kind at first, but as time passed, things changed. When Adana's mother had been alive, she had filled the home with warmth and laughter. But Yatund was different. She was quiet and often seemed angry about small things. The real problem started when Adana grew older and more beautiful. The village began to notice her more and more. When she walked to the market, people would greet her warmly and ask how she was doing. When she danced at celebrations, all eyes would follow her. Young men would bring gifts to her father's house, hoping to marry her. The praise and attention that Adana received made Yatund feel something dark growing inside her. This feeling was called jealousy, and it grew bigger and bigger each day. Yatund would watch Adana from the corners of her eyes. She would see how people smiled at her stepdaughter and how their faces lit up when Adana entered a room. She would hear the compliments about Adana's beauty, her grace, and her kindness. But Yatund would never hear such things said about herself or even about her own daughter, Chioma. This made her heart burn with anger and pain. At night, she would lie awake thinking about how unfair it was that Adana had been blessed with such beauty while her own daughter was ordinary and overlooked. Yatund began to resent everything about Adana. She resented her beautiful hair, her kind smile, and even the way she moved. She made small comments to hurt Adana's feelings, saying things like, "Your beauty will fade soon, and then what will you have?" Or, "You think you are better than everyone else because of your appearance." Yatund would also make Adana do the hardest work in the house, carrying heavy water from the well, grinding grain for hours, and cleaning the compound from sunrise to sunset. But no matter what Yatund did, Adana remained kind and patient. She did her work without complaining. She still greeted her stepmother with respect. She still helped Chioma with her tasks. And she continued to be beautiful, not because she wanted attention but because that was simply who she was. This made Yatund's jealousy grow even stronger. It was like a fire that could not be put out. It burned inside her day and night, making her think of only one thing: how to stop Adana from being so beautiful. Then one evening, as the sun was setting and painting the sky with colors of orange and red, Yatund made a terrible decision. She had been sitting alone in her room, thinking and thinking about Adana's beauty. Suddenly, an idea came to her mind, an idea so awful that it made her hands shake. If Adana's long, beautiful braids were gone, then she would no longer be beautiful. If her hair was cut off, then the village would stop praising her. If her greatest treasure was taken away, then Adana would finally understand what it felt like to lose something precious. Yatund walked quietly to the room where the sharp shears were kept. These were special shears that were used for cutting cloth and other materials. They were very sharp and dangerous. She held them in her hands and felt the weight of her terrible plan. She looked at the shears and then looked toward Adana's room. The house was quiet now. Everyone was sleeping. This was the perfect time to do what she had decided. Yatund moved through the darkness like a shadow, making no sound at all. Her feet knew every part of the house because she had lived there for many years. She reached Adana's room and slowly pushed open the door. Inside, she could see Adana sleeping peacefully on her mat. Adana looked so innocent and beautiful even while sleeping. Her long braids were lying across her pillow like a crown made of silk. Yitun stood there for a moment looking at what she was about to destroy. Her hands began to shake. Part of her wanted to turn around and leave, to go back to her own room and forget about this terrible plan. But the jealousy and anger inside her were too strong. They pushed her forward. She moved closer to Adana's sleeping form, holding the sharp shears tightly in her hands. The metal shears felt cold and heavy, like they carried the weight of the evil thing she was about to do. Yitun took a deep breath and raised the shears. She looked at Adana's beautiful braids one more time. Then she brought the shears down and made the first cut. The sound of the shears cutting through the braids was like a sharp whisper in the quiet night. One braid fell to the floor. Then another. And another. Yitun cut and cut, moving as fast as she could, driven by her jealousy and rage. She cut until Adana's head was almost bare, until all the beautiful braids that had taken so long to grow were scattered on the floor like broken dreams. Yitun cut away all of Adana's magnificent braids while she slept, leaving them scattered like fallen leaves. Adana woke devastated but refused to break. She wrapped her head in indigo cloth and continued her duties with quiet dignity. The village soon saw not a fallen girl, but a woman of unshakable strength. The night was very dark and very quiet in the village of Karimu. Most people were already deep in their sleep, dreaming peaceful dreams. But in one compound, something terrible was happening. Yitun moved through the darkness like a ghost, holding the sharp shears in her trembling hands. Her heart was beating so fast that she thought it might burst out of her chest. She had never done anything so cruel before, but the jealousy inside her had grown so strong that it pushed away all her sense of right and wrong. When Yitun first cut through Adana's first braid, she felt a strange mixture of fear and satisfaction. The braid fell to the floor with a soft sound, like something precious falling and breaking. She did not stop. She cut another braid, then another. Her hands moved quickly and without mercy. The beautiful braids that Adana had spent so many hours maintaining fell one by one to the floor, spreading around Adana's sleeping head like dark flowers wilting in the night. The golden threads and cowrie shells scattered across the mat, looking like treasures that had been thrown away. Adana continued to sleep through it all. She did not wake up. Perhaps she was too tired from her long day of work. Perhaps her mind was at peace with dreams and did not hear the sound of her most precious possession being destroyed. Yitun kept cutting until Adana's head was almost completely bare. Only short pieces of hair remained, sticking up like the stubble of a harvest field. What had taken years to grow was destroyed in just a few minutes. When Yitun finally stopped and looked at what she had done, she felt many things at once. There was satisfaction because she had finally done what she planned. There was fear because she knew this was a terrible thing. There was also a small voice inside her that whispered it was wrong, but she pushed that voice away. She left the shears on the floor and crept out of the room as quietly as she had come in. She left behind a room full of scattered braids and a girl whose beautiful treasure had been taken away while she slept. The night passed slowly. When the sun began to rise and paint the sky with colors of yellow and orange, Adana's eyes finally opened. She stretched her arms and yawned as she always did in the morning. But something felt different. Something felt very wrong. She reached up to touch her head, to feel her braids as she did every morning. But there was nothing there. Just short, stubble-like hair on her scalp. For a moment she did not understand what had happened. Her mind was confused. Then she saw them. All around her on the mat and on the floor were her braids. Her beautiful, long braids that she had cared for so carefully were scattered everywhere like dead things. Adana's eyes grew wide with shock and horror. Her mouth opened but no sound came out at first. She looked around her room trying to understand how this could have happened. And then the truth hit her like a physical blow. Someone had cut off her hair while she slept. Someone had destroyed the thing she loved most. Adana began to cry. Not quiet tears but deep, painful sobs that came from somewhere deep inside her. She picked up her braids from the floor with shaking hands, looking at them as if they might come back to life. She cried for what felt like hours. She cried for the loss of something precious. She cried for the betrayal of someone in her own family. She cried because she did not understand why anyone would do something so cruel to her. The pain was so deep that it felt like her heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. She did not leave her room that day. She stayed in bed, wrapped in her cloth, refusing to eat or drink. She just lay there, holding her cut braids in her hands and cried. The household moved around her quietly. People could hear her sobs, and they knew something terrible had happened. But no one asked questions. No one came to comfort her except Chioma, who felt ashamed of what her mother had done and tried to say sorry, though Adana was too hurt to listen. By the next morning, Yatund had already told her story to anyone who would listen. She told people that Adana had done something shameful and that she had cut off her hair as punishment. She told people that Adana had brought dishonor to the family and deserved what happened to her. She made up stories and lies to protect herself and to turn the village against Adana. Many people believed her because Yatund was an adult and had been living in the village for many years. They did not think to question her story. For 3 days Adana refused to leave her room. She wept and grieved for what she had lost. She felt anger, sadness and confusion all at the same time. She wondered if she had done something to deserve this. She wondered if her beauty had been wrong. She wondered if she would ever be happy again. The pain felt like it would never go away. But on the 4th morning something changed inside Adana. She woke up and looked at herself in the small mirror made from polished metal. She saw her reflection looking back at her. A girl with short hair, no braids, no golden threads, no cowrie shells. At first the sight made her sad. But then she looked deeper. She looked into her own eyes. And in those eyes she saw something that had not changed. She saw her own strength. She saw her own spirit. She saw herself. Adana stood up slowly and walked to where her cloth was kept. She took out a piece of beautiful indigo cloth that was dyed a deep, rich blue color. She wrapped it carefully around her head, covering her short hair. When she looked at herself again in the mirror, she saw something surprising. She still looked beautiful. Not because of her hair but because of something inside her. The cloth made her look dignified and strong. Adana took a deep breath and opened her door. The sun was bright outside and it felt warm on her skin. She walked out into the compound, moving carefully but with her head held high. People stared at her. They saw her short hair and her indigo cloth. They heard the story that Yatund had told them. But they also saw something else. They saw a girl who had suffered but was not broken. They saw a girl who was still beautiful, even without her braids. Adana went to the well to fetch water as she did every day. Her hands did not shake. Her head remained high. She went to the market to help her father sell goods. She worked in the compound, doing all the tasks that Yatund gave her. She never complained. She never acted sad or angry in front of others. She simply continued her life with quiet dignity and strength. Days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months. The village began to notice something remarkable about Adana. They noticed that her beauty had not gone away. In fact, it seemed to have grown even stronger. Her beauty was no longer just in her appearance. It was in the way she carried herself. It was in her kindness to others. It was in her courage. People began to understand that true beauty comes from inside, not from the outside. They began to respect Adana not because of her long braids, but because of her strength of character. The story that Yatund had told began to fade away. People stopped believing it because they could see with their own eyes that Adana was not shameful or bad. She was good and kind and strong. The village began to see Adana in a new way. They saw not a fallen girl, but a woman of unshakable strength. They saw a girl who had been hurt but refused to break. They saw true beauty, the beauty that comes from the inside and cannot be destroyed by any cruelty. Prince Kwesi arrived in the village seeking a bride who possessed inner beauty, not just outer appearance. While walking through the marketplace, he spotted Adana carrying water with grace, her bald head catching the sun like polished bronze. He felt immediately drawn to her authentic spirit. Far away in the northern part of the kingdom, there lived a prince named Kwesi. He was the son of the great king and queen, and he was known throughout the land as a fair and wise young man. Prince Kwesi was handsome, tall, and strong. He had everything that a person could want: wealth, power, respect, and a comfortable life. But there was one thing missing from his life. There was one thing that his parents kept asking him about. They wanted him to marry and have children so that the kingdom would have heirs to rule after him. Many noble families from distant lands had sent their daughters to the prince's palace, hoping that he would choose one of them as his bride. These girls were beautiful. They wore expensive clothes made from the finest materials. They wore jewelry made of gold and precious stones. They had been trained to dance gracefully and to speak in pleasant voices. They came from powerful families that would bring wealth and connections to the kingdom. But Prince Kwesi did not want to marry any of them. The prince had something that many people did not have. He had the ability to see beyond the surface of things. He could look at a person and know what kind of heart they had. He understood that true beauty was not about fine clothes or jewelry or even a beautiful face. True beauty came from inside a person. It came from having a good heart, from being kind, from being brave, and from being honest. He told his parents that he would not marry just any beautiful girl. He would marry a girl who had inner beauty, a girl whose spirit was strong and true. His parents did not understand at first, but finally they agreed to let him search for such a girl. They said that he could travel throughout the kingdom and look for someone worthy of being a princess. Prince Kwesi was happy to have this chance. He knew that real beauty existed somewhere in the world. He just had to find it. So he prepared for his journey. He chose a small group of trusted servants and guards to travel with him. They packed supplies and set out on the road. They traveled for many weeks, visiting different villages and towns. In each place, Prince Kwesi would look at the girls he met. Sometimes he would see girls who were beautiful on the outside but seemed shallow or mean on the inside. Sometimes he would see girls who seemed nice but did not have any depth of character. He was beginning to wonder if the kind of girl he was looking for even existed. But he did not give up. He continued to travel and to search. One day, after traveling for a very long time, Prince Kwesi and his group arrived at the village of Karimu. It was a small village, not as grand as the cities of the north where the prince came from. The people of Karimu were simple farmers and traders. The buildings were made of mud and straw. The streets were not paved with stone like the streets in the capital. But the village had a warm feeling about it. People greeted each other with genuine smiles and kind words. Prince Kwesi decided to walk through the village and see what it was like. He wanted to talk to the common people and understand how they lived. He left his guards behind and walked alone through the streets. He came to the marketplace, which was a busy place where people bought and sold goods. There were stalls selling fruits and vegetables. There were people selling cloth and baskets. There were women preparing food. The marketplace was filled with sounds and smells and colors. As the prince walked through the marketplace, he saw many girls and women going about their business. Some of them noticed him and tried to get his attention. They smiled at him and tried to impress him. They had heard that a prince had come to their village, and they hoped that he might be interested in them. Some of the girls wore their finest clothes. Some had flowers in their hair. Some wore all the jewelry they owned. But Prince Kwesi did not stop to talk to any of them. He kept walking, looking around with observant eyes. And then he saw her. He saw a girl carrying a large water pot on her head. The water pot was heavy, but she carried it with such grace and balance that it seemed as if the weight was nothing to her. The girl was wearing simple clothes, just a plain wrapper around her waist and a simple top. Her head was covered with a piece of indigo cloth. As she turned toward the well, the sun caught the side of her face. Prince Kwesi could see that she had no long hair like the other girls he had seen. Her head was covered, but he could see that her hair was short. But what struck him most was not her appearance. What struck him was the way she moved and the expression on her face. She moved with dignity and purpose. She did not seem sad or ashamed about her appearance. She did not seem to care what others thought of her. She simply did her work with quiet grace. Prince Kwesi felt something stir inside his chest. It was a feeling he had never felt before. It was as if something inside him recognized something in her. He began to walk toward her slowly, not wanting to startle her. The girl was so focused on her work that she did not notice him at first. She was carefully pouring the water from her large pot into smaller containers for people to carry home. When she finally looked up and saw the prince standing there, she was surprised. She had never seen a stranger approach her in this way before. But she did not seem nervous or overly excited like the other girls he had seen. Instead, she simply looked at him with calm, clear eyes. There was no pretense in her look. There was no fake smile. There was just honest recognition of another human being. Prince Kwesi knew right away that this was different. He could feel it in his bones. He walked up to her and said, "Greetings. My name is Kwesi and I have traveled a long way. I would like to know your name." The girl looked at him carefully for a moment. Then she said, "My name is Adana. Welcome to our village." Her voice was calm and pleasant, without any attempt to flatter or impress him. They began to talk. At first, they talked about simple things, about the village, about the marketplace, about the weather. But as they talked, Prince Kwesi asked her about her life. He asked her about her family, about her work, about her thoughts and feelings. And Adana answered him honestly. She did not pretend to be anything other than what she was. She did not hide her pain or her struggles. She simply told him the truth. She told him about her mother who had passed away, about her father who loved her, about her stepmother who was jealous of her. She told him about the terrible night when her braids were cut off while she slept. She told him about the pain and sadness she had felt. But she also told him about how she had chosen not to let that cruelty break her spirit. She told him about how she had learned that true beauty comes from inside, not from the outside. As Prince Kwesi listened to her story, he felt his heart grow full. He had traveled far searching for inner beauty, and he had finally found it. It was not hidden in a palace or with a noble family. It was in this simple village, in this girl named Adana, who had suffered but refused to be destroyed by her suffering. Her short hair and indigo cloth were not signs of shame or ugliness. They were signs of strength and character. They were proof of a spirit that could not be broken. When the sun began to set and paint the sky with colors of red and gold, Prince Kwesi said to Adana, "I have been searching for someone like you. I did not know what I was looking for until I saw you. But now I know. It is you. It is your strength. It is your honesty. It is your beautiful spirit." Adana looked at him with surprise. She did not know why a prince would be so interested in her. But she could see in his eyes that he was sincere. Prince Kwesi knew that he had finally found what he had been searching for. He had found a girl with true inner beauty. He had found someone whose spirit shone brighter than any jewel or fine cloth could ever shine. And he knew that this was the girl he wanted to marry. Prince Kwesi approached Adana and asked for her story, listening intently as she revealed the truth about her stepmother's jealousy and her own choice to persevere. He saw in her bald head not a mark of shame, but a crown of survival and courage. He declared right then that he wished to marry her. The afternoon sun was still warm and golden when Prince Kwesi and Adana finished their first conversation at the marketplace. The prince felt like he wanted to know everything about this remarkable girl. He wanted to understand her completely. He asked her if she would sit with him and tell him more about her life. Adana was hesitant at first. She had never spent time alone with a prince before. But there was something in his kind eyes that made her feel safe and comfortable. So she agreed. They walked together to a quiet place near the edge of the village, where there were large rocks and a few trees that gave shade from the hot sun. They sat down on one of the rocks, and Prince Kwesi asked her to tell him her complete story. He said, "I want to know everything about you, Adana. I want to understand your life and what has made you the person you are today." So Adana began to speak. She told him about her mother, who had been kind and gentle and had taught her many things. She told him about how her mother had loved her very much and had always said that she was special. But she also told him that her mother had passed away when she was still very young. She told him how her father had married Yatund and how at first everything seemed fine, but then things changed. She explained how Yatund had become more and more jealous as Adana grew older and more beautiful. Adana told Prince Kwesi about all the cruel things Yatund had done. She told him how her stepmother had made her do the hardest work in the house. She told him how Yatund had said mean things to hurt her feelings. She told him about the night that she had gone to sleep thinking about her beautiful braids and had woken up to find them all cut off. As she told this part of the story, tears came to her eyes. But she did not look away from the prince. She let him see her pain. Prince Kwesi listened to every word without interrupting. His face showed that he understood her pain and that he felt bad about what had happened to her. When Adana finished telling about the night her hair was cut, the prince reached out and gently took her hand. This surprised Adana, but it also comforted her. She felt less alone in her pain. Adana continued her story. She told him about the days and weeks that followed when she refused to leave her room. She told him about how she had cried and felt like her world was ending. She told him about the lies that Yatund had told people in the village. But then she told him about something else. She told him about the moment when she decided that she would not let this cruelty destroy her. She told him about how she had wrapped her head in the indigo cloth and chosen to face the world again with her head held high. "I understood something important," Adana said to the prince. "I understood that my beauty was not in my braids. My beauty was inside me. No matter what Yatund did to my hair, she could not touch the beauty inside my heart. So I decided that I would not be ashamed. I decided that I would be strong. And I decided that if people could not see my beauty without my braids, then those people did not deserve to know me." Prince Kwesi listened to these words with great admiration. He could see how strong this girl was. He could see that she had suffered, but that suffering had not made her bitter or angry. Instead, it had made her wise and even more beautiful on the inside. He could see that she understood something that many people never learned in their whole lives. She understood that true beauty comes from the spirit, not from the body. The prince told Adana about himself. He told her that he had been searching for someone like her. He explained that many girls had come to him hoping to marry him because of his wealth and power. But he had not wanted any of them because they only saw his position and his money. He wanted to find someone who saw him for who he really was inside. He wanted to find someone whose own inner beauty matched his own search for truth. "When I saw you at the marketplace," Prince Kwesi said, "I knew right away that you were different. I saw something in your eyes. I saw strength and honesty and goodness. I saw a girl who had been hurt but who refused to let that hurt destroy her. That is when I knew that you were the one I had been searching for." Adana's heart began to beat faster as she listened to his words. She did not know what to say. She was confused and surprised and happy all at the same time. She had never thought that someone like a prince would be interested in someone like her. She had never imagined that her suffering and her strength would be attractive to anyone. But here was this prince telling her that he saw something beautiful in her. As the sun began to move lower in the sky and the shadows grew longer, Prince Kwesi said something that made Adana's heart stop. He said, "Adana, I know that I have only just met you today. I know that you do not know me very well yet. But I know what I feel in my heart. I know that you are special. I know that you are the girl I want to marry. I know that you would be a wonderful princess and a wonderful queen. So I am asking you this question, and I ask it with all the sincerity in my heart. Will you marry me?" Adana could not believe what she was hearing. She looked at Prince Kwesi's face to see if he was joking or playing some kind of game. But she could see that he was completely serious. She could see the truth in his eyes. She could see that he really meant what he was saying. And in that moment, something shifted inside her. All the pain and sadness that she had been carrying began to transform into something new. It transformed into hope. She thought about her stepmother, who had tried to destroy her beauty. She thought about how Yatund had been so jealous and so full of hate. But instead of letting that darkness continue, Adana realized that she had been given a gift. She had been given the opportunity to show that true beauty cannot be destroyed. She had been given the chance to prove that character and strength are more valuable than any physical beauty. And now, this wonderful prince was recognizing that and was offering her a new life. Adana's eyes filled with tears, but these were happy tears. She said to Prince Kwesi, "Yes. Yes, I will marry you. But I want you to understand something. I am not marrying you because you are a prince and because you have power and wealth. I am marrying you because you see me for who I really am. You see my strength. You see my heart. And you love me not in spite of my scars, but because you understand that those scars have made me who I am." Prince Kwesi smiled at her and said, "That is exactly why I love you too, Adana. Because you are real. Because you are strong. Because you have suffered and learned and become wise. Because you see the world clearly and refuse to be broken by its cruelty. That is true beauty." As the sun set and painted the sky with colors of purple and orange and pink, the two of them sat together in that quiet place. The prince held Adana's hand and she held his. They sat in silence for a while, just enjoying each other's company and the feeling of having found someone who truly understood them. They knew that their lives were about to change completely. They knew that they would face challenges ahead. But in that moment they also knew that they had found something precious. They had found true love based on true understanding. Prince Kwesi looked at Adana's short hair and her indigo cloth, and he saw it as something beautiful. He saw it as a crown of survival and courage. He saw it as proof of her strength. And he knew that he had made the right choice. He had found the girl with the most beautiful heart in all the kingdom. He had found his true love. Adana became princess and used her position to help the forgotten and overlooked in the kingdom. Her hair grew back but she kept it short to remember her journey, and Prince Kwesi loved her completely, for her heart, not her appearance. They ruled with wisdom and justice, and Adana's story became a legend of inner strength. The news that Prince Kwesi was going to marry Adana spread through the village of Karimu like fire spreading through dry grass. At first, many people did not believe it. They thought that the story was just a rumor or a joke. How could a simple girl from their village, a girl whose stepmother had cut off her hair in shame, become a princess? How could someone so ordinary become royalty? But when Prince Kwesi made the announcement official, everyone had to accept that it was true. Yatund heard the news and felt her heart grow cold. She had thought that by cutting off Adana's hair, she would make her stepdaughter ugly and unlovable. She had thought that Adana would live a life of sadness and shame. But instead, the very thing that she had done to destroy Adana had led to her becoming a princess. Yatund felt angry and bitter, but there was nothing she could do. Prince Kwesi had made his choice and no one in the kingdom would question the prince. Chioma, Yatund's own daughter, felt something different. She felt ashamed of what her mother had done. She saw that her mother's jealousy had only caused pain and had not led to happiness for anyone. Chioma began to understand that beauty and value came from inside a person, not from outside appearance. She realized that she had been wrong to follow her mother's ways. She wanted to change and become a better person. The wedding was planned to take place in the capital city of the kingdom, where the royal palace stood. Adana had to leave her village and say goodbye to her father and the people she had known all her life. On the day she left, many villagers came to see her off. They brought her gifts and blessings. They told her that they were proud of her and that she had shown them all what true strength really means. Adana cried as she left her home, but these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude for the people who had believed in her. The journey to the capital took many days. Adana traveled in a beautiful carriage pulled by horses, with Prince Kwesi riding beside her on his own horse. As they traveled, Adana saw parts of the kingdom that she had never seen before. She saw great cities and small villages. She saw rich people and poor people. She saw people who had everything and people who had nothing. She began to understand how big and complex the world really was. And as she learned more about the kingdom, she began to think about how she could help people who were suffering. When they finally reached the capital city, Adana was amazed by its size and beauty. There were buildings made of stone that reached high into the sky. There were streets paved with smooth stones. There were markets that seemed to go on forever, selling things from all parts of the world. The royal palace itself was like nothing Adana had ever seen. It had many rooms and courtyards and gardens filled with flowers and fountains. For the first time in her life, Adana felt a little bit overwhelmed. But Prince Kwesi was always there beside her, holding her hand and helping her understand everything. The wedding ceremony was grand and beautiful. All the important people in the kingdom came to celebrate. There were nobles from distant lands, generals and soldiers, merchants and priests. They all came to see the prince marry this girl from a small village. When Adana walked into the great hall where the ceremony would take place, she was wearing a beautiful wedding dress made of the finest cloth. The dress was white and gold and had beautiful beads sewn into it. On her head, she wore a simple crown made of gold. But what everyone noticed most was not her dress or her crown. What everyone noticed was her short hair. She had chosen not to grow her hair long again for the wedding. She had chosen to keep it short, just as she had worn it since the day Yatund had cut it off. This shocked some people. They thought that for such an important occasion, she should have tried to hide this mark of her suffering. But Prince Kwesi understood why she had made this choice. He understood that she was choosing to be true to herself and to her journey. He understood that she was refusing to be ashamed of what had happened to her. When Prince Kwesi placed the royal crown on Adana's head, he spoke words that everyone in the kingdom heard. He said, "I marry Adana not because of her beauty on the outside, but because of the beauty inside her heart. I marry her because she is strong and true and kind. I marry her because she has shown me that real beauty comes from the spirit, not from the body. And I promise to love her and respect her for all the days of my life." When he said these words, many people in the kingdom understood something important for the first time. They understood that inner beauty was just as important as outer beauty, maybe even more important. After the wedding, Adana became the princess of the kingdom. But she did not just live a life of comfort and ease in the palace. She used her new position to help people. She learned about the poor people in the kingdom who did not have enough food to eat. She learned about children who could not go to school because their families were too poor. She learned about women who were treated badly by their families and had nowhere to go. And she decided that she would use her position as princess to help these people. Adana started programs to help poor families. She opened schools where children could learn to read and write for free. She built shelters for women who had been hurt or abandoned. She made sure that poor people could get food and medicine when they needed it. She visited the poorest parts of the kingdom and talked to people and listened to their stories. People began to love her not because she was a princess, but because she genuinely cared about them and worked hard to improve their lives. As time passed, Adana's hair began to grow back. Year after year, her hair got longer and longer. It grew back just as beautiful as it had been before, long and thick and dark. But she made an interesting choice. She did not grow it very long. She kept it short to her shoulders, a length that was between what she had worn before and what she could have worn if she wanted it very long. She explained to Prince Kwesi that she kept her hair this length to remember her journey. She kept it short to remind herself every day of what she had suffered and what she had learned. "Every time I see my hair in the mirror," Adana told the prince, "I remember that night when it was cut off. I remember the pain and the sadness. But I also remember that I chose not to let that pain destroy me. I remember that I stood up and faced the world again with dignity. I remember that true beauty comes from inside. And I want to remember these things for the rest of my life. So I keep my hair short. It is a choice that shows everyone who I am and what I have learned." Prince Kwesi loved his wife completely. He loved her not because of her beauty, though she was beautiful. He loved her because of who she was inside. He supported all of her work to help people. He worked beside her to make the kingdom a better place. Together they made many changes that helped the poor and the weak. Together they showed the kingdom that a ruler should care about all the people, not just the rich and powerful ones. Years passed and Adana and Prince Kwesi had children. They taught their children about the importance of inner beauty and true character. They taught them that it was wrong to be jealous of other people. They taught them that helping others was more important than having beautiful things. The children grew up to be kind and wise leaders just like their parents. Adana's story became famous throughout the kingdom. People told it to their children and their grandchildren. Mothers told their daughters that they should not judge people by their appearance. They taught them that a person's character was much more important than how they looked. Fathers told their sons that true beauty was in the heart and the spirit. Teachers told their students that suffering could make a person strong if they chose to learn from it instead of being destroyed by it. Adana and Prince Kwesi ruled the kingdom with wisdom and justice for many years. They were remembered as one of the greatest royal couples that the kingdom had ever known. Not because they were the most beautiful or the richest, but because they were the most caring and the most fair. Not because they had easy lives, but because they had learned important lessons from their suffering and had used those lessons to help others. When Adana was old, with gray in her short hair and lines on her face, people still told her story. And each time the story was told, it carried a simple but powerful message. It told people that true beauty comes from inside a person. It told people that suffering does not have to destroy you. It told people that character and strength and kindness are more valuable than any physical beauty. It told people that one person's courage can inspire a whole kingdom to become better and kinder. And so the girl from the small village of Karimu, the girl whose stepmother had tried to destroy her, became a legend. Her story became a reminder to everyone in the kingdom that inner strength is the greatest beauty of all. Her life became a testament to the power of choosing dignity in the face of cruelty. Her love with Prince Kwesi became a symbol of true connection based on seeing and valuing who a person really is inside.